What up, YouTube? It's the Ways, and I'm Tia, and today we're back with another video. Today we're actually back with the last video that I'm going to post for 2022. So I figured we kind of go out with a bang and go over some of the palettes that I used this year and rank them. I've only done one ranking on this channel, which I think I just did recently. Whitney Houston songs. Okay, I just did a last video. But we're going to rank some palettes. And I'm only going to rank the palettes that I used this year that were not part of my Waye Back Wednesdays. Okay, throw up your W's. We're not going to rate any of those palettes, as I gave you my thoughts on the ranking for those when I filmed those videos. But I wanted to put a ranking video together for all the palettes that were not part of Waye Back Wednesday that I used in 2022. So if you want to see this video, hear my thoughts on these palettes, or if you want to see my favorite colors from these palettes, then definitely please keep watching. But first, during the intro, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're not part of the fam gang. Go ahead and give me a huge thumbs up if you're feeling the vibe on this channel. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be updated every time I load a new video. Let go. Okay, so let's get started into this ranking. I have 13 palettes in all that I'm going to rank, and we're going to start with number 13. Let me just say, I love all these palettes. I don't think anything was like a dud at all. I just put these in the order of which I felt, how I felt about the color stories. You know, if you have one that should be higher and mine is lower, it's okay. We can agree to disagree. But I really like all of these palettes, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to tell you some reasons why I like them, maybe why they fell a little short for me. And I'm going to give you 3 of my favorite colors from each palette. I might swatch them if I'm feeling froggy, okay? So my number 13 palette is the Natasha Denona Love Palette. Yes. It is a beautiful color story. It's not really my color story. That's why it fell to number 13 on my list. I think that there are wonderful tones in this palette, but it's a lot of pink and it's a lot of purple, and that's not really my vibe. But the formula is fantastic. I love that you can rearrange Natasha Denona palettes. That's gonna kind of be consistent if I'm ranking any Natasha Denona. The palette formula is by far one of the best formulas, I believe. Some of the shimmers could be more impactful, but we're not dealing with the indie brand here. But yeah, that's why it kind of fell, just because of the color story for me. My favorite colors in this palette are Heart, which is this matte type of red shade here. Okay, I just think it's really, really pretty red. It doesn't turn orange, so I really like that. I use this for a Valentine's vibe video. That's another thing. You can check out any of these palettes on my channel by probably just searching the name of the palette, as I reviewed all of these palettes. My other favorite color in this palette is Commitment, which is like a cream to powder purple shade. So pretty. And then Blind, which is this silvery, shimmery, taupey shade. Spoiler, this is what's on my eyes today. Not this tone, but these 2 tones are definitely on my eye. And I also used Trust to build this look. And I did a little bit of Valentine in the inner corner. So it's not that I don't like this palette. It's just my number 13. The Natasha Denona Love Palette. Yes. All right, my number 12 palette. I'm not even honestly going to open this because it has shattered on me. But it is the Wet n Wild Color Icon palette. I used this in a drugstore takeover recently. I really enjoyed this formula. The shimmers were, they're all right. I love the color story. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not going to open this palette, but I love this taupey shade in here. So I also like this shimmer, this copper shimmer in here. I think that was a really pretty shimmer that they added to this palette. I'm sorry I can't swatch it. It literally just shattered. I had shattered this palette when I first got it, and then I pressed it back and it shattered again. So I'm probably gonna have to get rid of it. It's literally a $5, $6 palette, but I think they perform great. I also love this chocolate brown shade in here. So if you're looking for a drugstore option and you don't want to break the bank, but you want to have some good eyeshadows, check out these little Wet n Wild palettes, these 10 pattern palettes. Yes. Okay. My number 11 palette is by Huda Beauty and is the Mercury Retrograde palette. Look at how stunning this palette looks on the outside, but also look how stunning this palette looks on the inside. I really did like this palette. I like the color story. I like that you can get neutral. I like that you have these different pops of the green and the blue and the shimmer. Like they have really shimmery shades. So I really liked Haze. This is one of my favorite colors in the palette. I like Frazzled, which is like a gold to a coppery shade. And then I also enjoyed Nebula. I like the names in this palette for sure. This one's like really shimmery purple. So these are my favorite colors in this palette. I thought it was really fun to play with. I guess it fell so low because I haven't picked it up since. This palette is more of a cool tone vibe to me with some muted type of shades, let's say. I think the color story is very unique. I also love that you can make little quads. Like this is a quad. This could be a quad. This could be a quad. This could be a quad. That could be a quad. Like I like how it's set up if you're a beginner and you don't really know where to go, but you want some lighter shades. I think this would be an awesome spring palette. The shimmers are very shimmery, which are a little different. They're not like metallic-y. So yeah, I really enjoyed this palette. It's just, I don't reach for it. It is a vibe, but it's not my everyday vibe I'm gonna pull for this palette. I do like that you get some neutral tones in here that you can pull in there and then get very colorful as well. So yes, number 11 was the Mercury Retrograde palette by Huda Beauty. Okay, my number 10 palette. This one is because it's Stranger Things by MAC. Like, what? I had to get this palette. It's nostalgia reasons. I love Stranger Things. Me and my daughter really bonded over Stranger Things. And I love that it's the Upside Down World palette. That's the one that I picked out. I thought the color story was very unique. I like that it's a smaller palette. It's just an 8-pan palette. I've been enjoying MAC lately. I just brought you the Whitney Houston and MAC collection, and I'm not disappointed in any of these color stories or any of these shadows. I love this red. I love this red, Code Red. This is a real true red as well that has a little bit of an orangey burnt type of tone to it. I love Mind Flare, which is a shimmer, metallic-y shade. It's more metallic-y, kind of a antique-y bronze, like a deep bronze. Let me see. I probably, so yeah, I like that. It's kind of a darker shimmer. I really like that color. And then I also liked Demo Bat, which is the green. Of course, I'm a sucker for greens, and it's a shimmer as well, but that is super duper pretty. So great palette, great little color story, unique to my collection. It has all the vibes of Stranger Things. I think it just fell a little shorter in my collection because it is not something I'm going to pull out every single day. I think if I'm going for a dark vibe, something smoky, this would be a reason that I'd want to pick up this palette. But I thought that they did a great job with this collection. I also love the names of this palette. I think it represented the palette and Stranger Things so well. The Mother Gate, the Void, Demon Bat, it's just on point with the whole theme. And I think MAC smashed it when they made this collection. So good job, MAC. And I will forever hold on to this palette. I will never get rid of this palette. Never. Oh, and let's not mention the packaging. This upside down. And then the actual packaging of, like I did in my video. Okay, number 9. Falling at number 9 is the Gemini 2 palette by Melt Cosmetics. Yes. For one, can we admire the packaging? Because it is absolutely fantastic. I love that they made a sequel to the Gemini 1. I had got these together and I had never tried the Gemini 1 palette. So it was very fun to kind of mesh up and play with both of these palettes. I love that this palette goes from light to dark. I love the grungy berry vibes. Like that was the whole vibe this season, was grungy berries, or berries, I should say. But this one really stuck out to me, and that's the only reason why I picked up this palette over any of the other palettes. Plus I have some dark greens. So my favorite colors in this palette is Boy Mom, which is this brownie cool tone. I also love Schmood, which is one of the shimmers in this palette. It's kind of a coppery, but it's more of a dark coppery with a little bit of that mauve tone. And then Lovesick. Obviously, you can tell I like these matte reds, but this one definitely has more mauve vibes to it. Yes, this palette is awesome. The color story is beautiful. The mattes blend so well. I'm really impressed by Melt's mattes. I've used multiple palettes now, and they're my favorites so far just to blend. And so easy to use. The shimmers were high, you know, but they're really pretty. They're just darker shimmers, but I really enjoyed this palette. I thought that I got some really nice looks out of this palette, and I'm glad that I was able to represent for the Geminis in my life, and that's why this came in at number 9. All right, so my number 8 palette is by Unearthly Cosmetics, and it is the Leather and Lace palette. Yes, look at the packaging. I love the whole vibe and like where she was taking this palette, thinking of leather and lace, hard and soft, feminine and masculine. And I just love the whole concept of this palette. This is the color story. I love the inside design. How it's like, you can't really tell, but it looks like it's distorted, the inside with the lace, with probably leather. I love that it's a small palette. What is that? 12 shades. I love that you can use this as an everyday palette. I could use this as an everyday palette. My favorite colors are Chantilly, which is the shimmery gold, which has a little bit of a pink shift. Duochrome. Ugh. Unearthly just gets shimmers right. I love vintage. Like Nikki says, one of the YouTubers on YouTube, she's vintage and I absolutely love it. But this is an olivey type grungy green, which is fantastic. And then I also like Redwood. Redwood is like a burnt orange, which I'm obsessed with. You only have 3 shimmers in this palette, but they all give off a different type of vibe. It's easy to get cohesive looks with this palette because you could just go row by row. You can switch it up, but it's all neutral enough with a pop of color. That's what I like. If somebody loves a neutral palette, but they wanted a pop of color, I think that this would be awesome if they want to start playing with color. The only thing I really don't like about this palette, be real with you, which I talked about in the video, is it's heavy. It's heavy. It's big. It's bulky. It's heavy. I know one thing about Unearthly Cosmetics now is you can take these shades out and mix and match. So that is a positive, but it is a little bulky. But that's why this comes in at number 8. But I absolutely love this palette. I absolutely love this palette. And I love the quality of these mattes, and these shimmers are bangers. The number 7 palette, I'm not even sure if you can get any more, but it is by NARS. And I did a NARS takeover and I used this palette. Is the Cool Crush palette. I was actually very impressed by this palette. NARS has palettes that kind of all look the same for sure, but they threw us some other shades in here. They gave us a red, they gave us some teal blues. You have your gold, you have your rose tones. I think this is an awesome everyday palette. Awesome everyday palette for somebody that wants a little color, but if I don't want to use color, it's okay because I have all these different neutrals. You have some peaches. So my favorite colors in this palette are Feast. Let me see if I can show you. Feast. I have a vibe, y'all. I have a vibe, okay? Feast, which is a gold. Oh, so pretty, shimmery gold. Which is also Inception, which is this blue that has a little bit of a gold shift undertone. So pretty. It is also a shimmer. So pretty. And then I also really like, you probably guessed it, but it's Risk, which is this red, burnt red. matte in this palette. I love the look that I created with this palette. It was so effortless. I think this is a great travel palette as it's so compact and small, but you get a good amount of shades. I don't think that you would need to take more than just this palette if you're going to start traveling. I was so impressed by the NARS formula. I'm glad that I actually tried it, and in the future now I'd be wanting to pick up other NARS palettes as I'm obsessed with NARS period, you know. I just thought the color stories weren't up my alley, but I like how they performed on my eye. Gave you a natural look with a little pizzazz, a little classiness, let's say. So that is the NARS Cool Crush palette.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment what was your favorite palette in this video.
Thanks, Jada. She's helping me out on the side. She helped me prepare for this video. So thank you so much to Jada for that. Okay, number 6. Let's hop right back in. Number 6. I couldn't decide on which one, so I put them together. 2 palettes. And they are the All I Ever Wanted Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Unearthly Cosmetics. Yes. Let me tell you my favorite colors from each color story. These are all shimmery duochrome palettes. They have some multi-chromes in here too. I feel they're very sparkly. Some of them are more metallic-y, but I just think that these are some awesome companion palettes. This was number 1. And my favorite colors from this palette are Alien Princess. Oh my gosh, Alien Princess. It's so, if you can see the shift there. They're so wet looking. I love this shadow. I also love Milky Way. I'm not a huge purple person, but this one, it goes pink to purple to green to gold. Like, it is fantastic, and I love the shade of purple in there. And then my favorite color is Sphinx. This orangey vibe here with a little red. It's very wet. It has some green in there. Oh, that color is fire. Fire. So those are my favorite 3 from the All I Ever Wanted Volume 1 palette. You get a lot of colors for your money in these palettes. Plus, they like stand out. I mean, you can get a NARS palette, but you're not getting any shimmers or metallics that sparkle like these indie brands at all. So this is volume number 2. I had to get it because I do love the tones in here. It's more grungy, it's more yellowy, it's more green, and I really like that vibe. My favorite colors in this palette, Rain is gorgeous. This is like a turquoise blue with some green and some purple. This color, I could bathe in this. This is fantastic. The next one is Secret. It is a gold. It's a very chunky type of shade. Green and gold. It has a black base to it. And then the other one is Night. And I love this color. It's kind of an antique gold. It also has a black base to it, and it has a little bit of copper to it too. Yes. But this palette is fantastic. Number 1 is fantastic. I only made them number 6 just because, not the formula or anything like that. It's more of a companion palette. I mean, I could just drop one of these shimmers all over my eye, but that's not really how I like to do my looks. I like to add a little bit of a matte to them. I just love these palettes because they are super duper sparkly. They add spice to every look, any look. You know, you just throw one of these on and you're good to go. It's like dual chrome, multi-chrome goodness in a couple palettes. You don't need a whole bunch of singles and stuff like that. That's why I bought them, because I'm like, I don't have a whole bunch of, you know, dual chrome, multi-chrome singles. I like it in a palette. I like that I can just take it and go and I don't have to think about it, but I have so many different options. I absolutely love these palettes. They're all I ever wanted, and I think she did a fantastic job on these palettes. So they came in at number 6. Okay, so number 5 is newer to my collection and is the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette. Yes. This one was a surprise for sure. This is a different type of color story for my collection. That's why I really like it. It wasn't what I expected. I love that they show up on me. I love that they show up on my skin tone, and I love how they show up on my skin tone. I love that it's a subtle color. It doesn't give too much of a punch, but it gives enough to give you something. It gives you some color, because there's a couple neutrals in here, but they're more of a taupey type neutrals. I love that you can rearrange them as well. I love the formula. My favorite colors are Maxi, which is this dark taupey shade. I love Flutter, which is this shimmery metallic-y shade. It's very shimmery. It's very, very pretty. It's like a white pinky gold. Very pretty. I love Oscar. If you see my video, I raved about Oscar. It is a taupey metallic as well. And then my last favorite color, which was a surprise, and I wish I would have used it more, which was Oz. It is also a shimmer, but it is kind of like an evergreen, olivey shade. This palette just surprised me. Like, I think it's gorgeous. I'm glad that I have it in my collections because it's so unique. Like I said, every color performed very, very well, as I use most of the colors in this palette. I love just the subtleness and the earthiness of this palette, and I think it was a hit. I think it was a hit, and that's why it sits at number 5 in my collection. All right, so number 4. Yes, number 4. First, let's talk about the artwork, because I know that's why I love it so much. It's Hella Palette by Odins Eye and Angelica Nuisfis, who is a YouTuber on YouTube, and this is the Hella Palette. This is the outside packaging, and then you open it. That is the inside packaging. One is black and white with a little bit of color, but then this is the colorful of the colorful palette. I absolutely love this color story. I love how small the shades are, like compact. I like really how they put this palette together, the Odins Eye palette. This was my first Odins Eye palette to try the formula. It did take me a little bit of time to really enjoy it, but I do enjoy it. I love that it has a little grunge effect to it. I love the yellows. I love the greens. I love these darker purpley tones. My favorite colors in this palette are Florensis. This is a gold to like yellowy green. Fantastic. Then I also really like Suit, which is this matte up here. I like this. This is it really matches my shirt, right? It's like a purple mauve deep tone. But it made this palette transform to where you can go very neutral with this palette as well, even though it doesn't look like it. These neutral tones have a lot of green or yellow to them, which I actually really like, kind of mustardy. And then I really love this color, double-sided. It's like a multi-chrome, shimmery situation, and it looks fantastic. It's gold, it's orange, it's yellow, it's greens, it's pinks. You can put it over any shadow and it's going to transition. It has a peachy vibe as well, but it's going to transition any look. You can't really tell, I don't think, in the camera. But this color is fantastic, and this is an awesome palette. I think Angelica, or Angie, which I call her, did a great job on this palette. It screams her. It goes from very light to very dark. You have your grungy tones. You can go neutral. You can go colorful. You have a good amount of mattes compared to a good amount of shimmers. The only thing I hate is that you can't get it anymore. Can't get it anymore. But this is a Swedish indie brand, and Angelica, or Angie, is also Swedish. And I just think that she's a fantastic YouTuber, and I love supporting her. I have the other collab that she did with Kaleidos, which I absolutely love too. This one really screams Angie, and I love the artwork, and I'm so happy that I have in my collection. Yes, number 4. All right, y'all, we're almost there. We're almost there. Three more. Top three for me. So my number 3 palette has to go to Danessa Myricks, and this is the Lightworks Volume 3 palette. Yes, I know she dropped number 2. I did not get number 2, as I had the Unearthly Cosmetics Duochrome Multichrome, and I had this palette. And these colors called to me. She used a lot of greens and blues in the other one, and that's not always my vibe, but yes, this one was definitely my vibe. So I love that she has these different textures in here. My favorite colors are Polaris, which is kind of a creamy texture. It is, these are all multi-chromes besides the middle row here, but this one goes from green to, I don't know, let me just swipe it on the side. Green to gold to fantastic. Okay, it's just it. Got a little bit of orange. Like, this is just it, and it's wet looking. It's just a different type of vibe. I also love Solar Rain. I like golds. I like pinks. This one, I mean peaches. This one has that peachy vibe. I did eye swatches of this palette, so if you're not really getting the vibe of it and you haven't seen this video, then definitely check it out. I'll kind of, I can't even explain it. I can't even explain it. It's peach. It has a taupey kind of undertone. It has gold. It's just fantastic. And then my favorite, last favorite color is Spacesuit. It is also kind of a creamy texture. It has a little bit of gold. It has a little bit of copper. Has a lot of orange. It's just has a little bit of pink. These are my standout shades. I love the look that I did with this palette. I don't know. I don't know. I did a video where I actually did a look. And it was so bomb. Like, it was so pretty. It was like a 3 shimmer layered look. So pretty. I love the textures of these middle ones. They are like highlighters. So Golden Eclipse is more of a golden highlighter. Strawberry Moon has that pinky undertone. Spring Equinox has a green, and then Blue Moon has a blue type of shift. You can use them as highlighters, you can use them as topper shades, you can use them however you want to. I love the concept of press and play. I've used this palette probably the most in my collection this year. I used it a lot. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on, 5, 6, 7, 8. I used this palette 8 times this year. Gorgeous. Doesn't even look like I touched it. I love this palette. It was an expensive one, but it was definitely worth it. So, Danessa Myricks Lightworks Volume 3 comes in at number 3. All right, number 2. Number 2. I wonder if you guys know what number 1 is. I wonder. Stop right here. If you think you know what number 1 is, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Go ahead and leave it in the comments. But we're going to get into number 2. So number 2 in my collection for the palettes that I used in 2022. Number 2 comes in with the Gemini palette by Melt Cosmetics. The original Gemini, the OG. Let's admire the packaging because it is gorgeous. And it exuberates the inside of the palette. Just like the Gemini 2 did, for sure. I just love that about it. I love the names of this palette. I love the grunginess of this palette. I love that it goes from light to dark tones. I love that it has a lot of green vibes. I love the mustardy vibes. My favorite colors in this palette are Mochi, which is this mustardy, grungy yellow shade. I love the color Fire OG, which is this olivey, grungy green shade. And then I also love Polka Dot, which is this brown with this yellow grungy undertone. So they're all mattes. I love this palette. I love that the mattes perform so well in this palette. So easy to blend. This is what I would call my everyday neutral palette because I can just throw any of these colors on the lid and keep it moving. I only have a couple shimmers, but that's okay. I think they performed very, very well. The quality is just superb in this palette. It was worth the wait because I got this palette late. I got it when it launched the second time around. And I'm so happy that I picked it up. Like, this is right up my alley. I love the grunginess. I love the yellow undertones, the green vibes. This is just my vibe in a palette, to be real with you. Like, I just think that it is fantastic. Fantastic quality. I got some awesome looking looks with this palette without being too much. Just neutral with a little bit of oomph. Okay? A little bit of oomph. Thank you, Melt, for bringing back these palettes and dropping the number 2. But I'm so happy that I have this palette in my collection. So that's why it comes in at number 2. So my number one palette of 2022, outside of the color stories that I use for my Way Back Wednesdays, this palette I was not expecting to be one of my favorites, but it stole my heart. It stole my heart. I love the looks that I created with this palette. I think it's awesome vibe. I love the grunginess. I love the darker tones, but then also some lighter tones. And number one comes in with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Rose Metal palette. Yes, look at this packaging. Yes. I love this palette. I love this palette. You would say, why, Tia? You don't really like pinks and stuff. And I don't. But these ones just hit different. They have a lot of taupe to them. They have a lot of earthy shimmers that are like antique-y. Gold and coppers and browns. And you have your pinky mauvey vibes, but they're not too pink, not too purple. Just very taupey. Can lean a little gray, maybe a little cool tone besides when you get in here. And I think you can go cool. I think you can go warm. I just think that the quality was great in this palette. I love how she condensed the amount of colors we received in this palette compared to her older palettes. I love that the sizes are a little bigger. I love that you can get a bright shimmer, but go also to a nice grungy dark shimmer. I have the peachy tones in here. I have my burnt terracotta type tones. I have my brown. I can just do so much with this palette. It's so versatile and it just screams like rose metals. Like the name was just perfect. Okay, my favorite colors in this palette are Haze, which is like a if you notice, I think I liked another shade in another palette that looked like this, but it's like an antique gold. Shimmer, Rose Fire, which is a coppery shimmer or metallic, and then Nova, which is a dark brown, grungy, antique type of shade. Let me swatch them on the back of my hand so you can kind of see the vibes of these shadows. Yes, just like antique every day, but neutral enough, but to give a little some. I think this palette was unexpected for me to like it, as it does have those pinky mauvey or pinky tones, but the mauve really hit it home for me. I think this palette is hecka sexy. I can see me just throwing on any color on my lid and keep it moving, or in my crease. Like, so easy, so versatile, so beginner friendly, so beautiful. And it's such a unique color story in my collection. Like I said, I wasn't really feeling the, maroony vibes this year that a lot of people were putting out. But I did get the Gemini palette. I think the Gemini 2 and this one would mash up real well together. But they both stand great on their own. So yes, this is my number one palette that I use for 2022. Yay! Rose metals. Yes! So that completes my countdown for the palettes that I used in 2022 and ranking them from my least favorite to my top favorite. Were there any favorites that I mentioned that should have came in like 1, 2, or 3 in your eyes? Did you agree with me on the countdown? Let's talk about it in the comments. Like, I'm okay to agree to disagree. It's all good. I like to know your number one palette that you used this year. If I didn't use it, I definitely want to know. So I think if I need to get my hands on it, I need to try before they discontinue it. Because they always want to get rid of something we love. But let me know in the comments. This year has been a roller coaster for sure. Thank you so much for all of my subscribers. Like, I couldn't do this without you guys. You keep me motivated. You make me want to continue to bring you my content on this channel. I love all the support that you guys give me. Thank you so much. And we are going to rush into 2023. We're going to bring some different stuff on the channel. We're going to bring some declutters. We're going to start going through our makeup and like clearing things out for 2023 and bring some new fresh type of vibes. Okay. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, gang. Go ahead and hit the notification bell so you can be updated every time I load a new video. And like if you like this channel. Please like if you're feeling the vibe. It really does help me out. So thanks so much for spending your time with me and going through this little countdown. If you like this type of video, definitely let me know below, or definitely like the video. Thanks so much. Have a great 2022 New Year celebration, and let's go to 2023. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you later. Peace.